part of our panel. So we have three very extinguished and very knowledgeable college coaches here in front of you today. They are here to help you with the process in general. So they're not going to be answering any questions regarding their school. They're going to be more talking about the Division III, 2, and 1 college recruitment process and help you with some of the best practices that they've seen over the years and provide you information regarding that. So whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, some of you are even 8th graders in here, if you have questions, please note them so we have the last 25, 30 minutes to speak about those. Otherwise, we're going to turn it over to the coaches. I'm going to introduce them one by one, and they're going to give you a small little debrief on where they came from, how long they've been in the college game, and obviously they're excited to be here. So, first and foremost, to my left right here is Norm Riker from Conn College. A round of applause for Norm. And Norm's going to just talk a little bit about himself and how long he's been in the college game.
Hello everyone, happy to be here, and I have two Scorpions players that are down with me at Connecticut College. I have a unique story. I grew up on Block Island, and when you grow up on Block Island, there's a lot of space, but there's not a lot of people to play with. So my first touch got away from me because I had space. My second touch was usually a tackle. I ended up going to boarding school, which picked up two sports, lacrosse and soccer. Soccer's my first love, and I was just a better lacrosse player. I ended up playing lacrosse in college, but went back to soccer as I got out of college and had two sports that I coached. It's funny, so go to where you wanted and go to where you can be successful, and that's kind of the route I took. Got right out of college, knew sport was going to be my place, ended up at UVM for a year, down to Vassar, and then I was someone who did the opposite. I went out to the Midwest, went out and lived in Ohio for 9 years at Wittenberg University, and then came back and got a job at Connecticut College, 20 miles as a crow flies from where I grew up, and where I went to my first summer camp. So kind of a full circle of stories, but I've always pretty much been a Division III person. I feel the balance is awesome, and I love the community sense of a small campus. I'm happy to be here tonight. Looking forward to the question and answers. Thank you.
Wonderful. We're very excited to have you here with us, Norm. To the left of Norm is Nancy Feldman from Boston University. Round of applause for Nancy.
Yes, so I'm a Massachusetts native, Needham, Rocket. That was a while ago. I was fortunate Title IX got passed in 1972. Everyone know what Title IX is? Federal law that makes it illegal to discriminate if you're receiving any federal funds, to have inequities in offering for male or females as it related to sports is how it affected me. So when I got to high school, there was a varsity team that was 2 years old. And when I got to college at UMass Amherst, there was a varsity team that was 2 years old. And if I had been 2 years older, I probably wouldn't have played soccer. So I got into coaching after I wasn't quite smart enough to get into medical school. And as I always like to say, this isn't heart surgery, it's a good thing, right? So I coached at Division III schools, Lake Forest College in Illinois, and then Plymouth State, now Plymouth State University. Yeah, grade school. And then I was fortunate to be able to work at Boston University, where I got a chance to start the program in 1995, which wasn't far from where I grew up. So I've been there 27 years, and I've been involved in ODP, and I've been involved in club soccer. Yeah, I love coaching. And I'm going to be happy to share general information about the recruiting process, because none of this should be a secret.
Awesome. Round of applause for Nancy. And last but not least is Alex Wilson. Funny and very long time ago story. Me and Alex worked at a New Hampshire camp together. I think I was 18. Alex, I don't even ask how old you were, but she instantly took me under her arms and made it one of the best experiences I ever had that way. So she's a great person, also a great coach, and we're happy to be sending some Scorpions to Stoneham this upcoming year.
Thanks, Evan. Really appreciate being here. Thank you. I do remember that camp. It was a great camp, and Evan playing at a rival NE10 school. I didn't hold that against him, which is great. But I'm from Marshfield, Mass originally. I played at Stonehill, so another kind of full circle trip for me. After playing there, I started coaching straight away as a graduate assistant at Franklin Pierce University, which is a fellow NE10 school, and that experience really opened my eyes to the fact that coaching could be a profession. I think not once growing up did someone tell me, oh, you can coach, you can stay in soccer, and having a love for the game, discovering that as a graduate assistant, while getting a degree, and then also, again, opening my eyes to that. I've been back at Stonehill for 9 years as a head coach since 2013, back in 2012, and love the Division II balance as well. I think that word balance we'll probably hear a bit tonight, but also with strengths that are comparable to other Division I as well in terms of commitments year round. But just excited to be here. See a lot of eager faces to learn, and I think that you all being here is the first step in taking ownership over this recruitment process. So well done to you all as well.
Wonderful. Round of applause for Alex. All right, so we're just going to get a kick started here. Norm, we'll start with you, and then we'll shift it around. But more of a general question. What are some qualities that you, as coaches, are looking for in PSAs? And PSAs, for those that don't know that, are prospective student athletes. So those could be on-field qualities or off-field qualities.
On Friday, I was sitting in Tennessee and was watching the Scorpions 05 girls team. And we were playing the Mustangs, I think, from California. And you, first of all, were doing a great job. You had 2 great goals where you kind of countered. It was a team goal, and the excitement in the young women. Literally, I saw the girl's face. She just big smile, and she pumped her fist, and she ran towards us as coaches. And I'm like, that's it. That's what it's about, And so often, we miss that, and Christine Lilly mentioned it. We got to have the fun in it and the passion in it. And I was really moved by that moment. It was 2 great goals they scored, and the excitement that they had as a team, traveling halfway across the country. And it was a team goal, and it lifted me and said, yeah, that's the kind of people I want in my program. I'm excitable. I love coaching. You need to match my energy. And you gotta have fun, and so I need to see players having fun. No coach, Nancy, Alex, and I don't go, did the Scorpions win? No, they lost 3-0. Okay, we're not recruiting that team. Nobody cares, I mean, we do care, but we don't care. How are you dealing? How are you responding? What's the energy you're bringing? Are you lifting your teammates up? Are you high-fiving each other? Are you supporting one another? And I think that those are the important things I look for on the field. Off the field is really hard, and I would say this very quickly. The phone can be trouble, and we'll probably come back to this so much. Don't pull it out. When the game ends, put it down, high-five your teammates, support another. Pick up your trash. Pick up your trash. Don't yell at your parents. Okay? Please and thank yous. Those things go a long way, because guess what? If I see a troubled recruit, then they become trouble for me at the college level. I don't need that. So be a good person.
I'll just add to it. Certainly everything that Norm said, I agree with. It's funny, when Christine was just talking, I was thinking about some of the things I was thinking about sharing with you, and a lot of them hit the mark, and it's consistent with what Christine said. Making an impact for your team is certainly something that I think all the college coaches that are lined up on the sideline are looking for. How are you making an impact for your team? And it could be because of your technical proficiency, it could be because of your athleticism, mobility, pace, quickness, it could be because of your physicality or competitiveness, it could be because of your soccer IQ. So in what way are you standing out? Are you different? And that just, I think Christine said, play to your strengths. So what is your strength, and then make your strength a real big strength that's a separator. Because I think what coaches are looking for on the field is who is separating themselves to make, and not to be the most skillful player and not have an impact, but who is making an impact for her team in a positive way. The off the field, and I'll just say this too, don't worry about what the coaches are looking for. And that must be really impossible. I did not have to play soccer with coaches watching on the sideline that were recruiting. They weren't watching on the sideline. I was just playing. And I think it must be really, really challenging, but a really important place for each of you to get to is that you're not thinking about what's going on the sideline and who's watching. You play because you love it. You play because you want to make it, be a part of your team succeeding on that day. You play because you want to give it your best effort. And you do that, and the rest of it's going to take care of itself. Off the field, good character, be honest, trustworthy. And we call high school coaches, we'll call club coaches as well, no disrespect to the club coaches here, but we'll call high school coaches because they'll really, they won't necessarily focus on what you like as a soccer player. They'll talk about what you like as a teammate, what you like as a student in the high school. And those are things that we really want to know about. And Norm said your passion to play, your competitiveness, and how disciplined and motivated you are in taking care of your own business. And the last thing I'd say is just willing to do the work. And Christine said it a number of times. You know, everyone wants to be great, everyone wants achievement, everyone wants success, everybody wants this, everybody wants that, everybody wants to play, everybody wants to be the superstar. It's really, are you willing to work for it? And that really is what college coaches are looking for, because where you are right now is not where you're going to be in 3 or 4 years, and where you're going to be in 3 or 4 years is really who we're recruiting.
Alex, you want to add on to that, even though we squeezed 2 answers out of it already?
I just echoed a lot of the same things. I think I've heard the word passion from both coaches, and I absolutely agree with that, because I think passion will carry you in the good moments, and the bad moments, and the ugly moments, because all of those can occur daily, can occur in a season, in an off season, and I think having that passion to bring you back for why you do this and what impact you can make daily is going to give you those long-term goals. And I think, to Nancy's point, if you can walk away from that practice field or game field, whether you played 90 minutes, 9 minutes, no minutes, and give yourself that small victory. What did I do well today for my team? Then I think that you've answered your question of, am I an impactful member of this program? And it should be yes, if you can answer that question. And that may be, when my teammate was injured, I was out there helping her out, grabbing her ice on the bench, or I scored the game-winning goal. And both of those impacts are equally important in embracing your role within a program. So, but again, echoing what both coaches have said.
Wonderful, thank you, Alex. We're going to skip on. Yeah, round of applause for Alex. This obviously varies from division to division and honestly from region to region, but what does your traditional recruiting timeline look like, and what is the best way for players to get onto your radar?
I think for us in Division II, you know, we are guided by the communication regulations of the NCAA, and to have one-on-one communication directly with a PSA is June 15th preceding your junior year. So if you're a freshman, if you're a sophomore, and you email a Division II coach, don't be offended if there's no response. You may get some sort of scripted responses. Thank you for your email. Due to NCAA guidelines, we can't communicate much further. Copying your club coach, don't copy your family, but you can copy your coaches, as we can communicate with the coach. Say, hey, you know, I got Sarah's email, you know, we'll look for her at the showcase, or whatever it may be, but we're really guided by those communication guidelines. And if you call the office and I answer, you can speak, but if you leave a message, I can't call you back before that June 15th preceding junior year. That's just the way the timeline works. And I think even though that is by the rule book, every program's different. You know, there are freshmen and sophomores that can be committed to a Division II program just through the third-party communication and being able to get materials done. But typically, you know, it's probably looking at that junior timeline to get first quarter grades in, and you know, understanding the academic fit, you know, aside from the soccer fit as well.
Wonderful.
Nancy, you want to?
Sure. The dates that Alex just gave are similar or are the same for Division I. That June 15th before your junior year is the allowable exchange back to you. So as sophomores or freshmen, you can communicate all you want, but we're not allowed to call or email you back other than send you a questionnaire and say thanks for your interest. So it is good to know that. And then for what you should do is continue to keep the coaches of the schools you're interested in updated on things that are going on, what events you're playing at, what successes you've had, what season you're in. And when you send those emails, personalize them if you can. You know, if you have time to do that, if you have a list of 20, 25 schools, have something that's personal in them. Those things matter. Definitely include when you're giving information about a tournament, the number you're wearing, your year of graduation, and an accurate schedule for the upcoming tournament once that is put out there. It never, it helps you if the day of the tournament or the day before the tournament, that's when you're emailing. So that introductory letter now, and then a week before the tournament, here's the schedule, hope to see you there. Maybe 5 days before the tournament, but try not to wait till the last minute because it's hard to get you on the list if we're scrambling around the day before a tournament. And I'll only add this to it, on and off campus visits, you can come to campuses anytime you want to, and you should. You should watch games live. It's great because all these games are live streamed, but really the essence of watching a game, just like we're watching recruits, live is the best way. And it also gives you a sense of seeing all the other things that are going on besides just the play, which is important. Walking around campuses. The contact to meet a coach on campus can't happen until August 1st before your junior year with a face-to-face contact, but that doesn't mean you can't go on those admission tours, which are super valuable at any school you're looking at, even before you might take an unofficial or an official visit.
Wonderful. Norm?
Thank you, great stuff. So ironically, Division III, we can talk to you as soon as you become a high school student, but we're also going to probably be the latest in the decision-making process because we don't offer scholarships. It's admissions, and you get your financial aid, and you get your merit money. So typically, the timeline is all 4 years, but that conversation doesn't really need to happen because it's such a long process in going through the application process. That said, I'm an SCAC school, which means it's a New England Small College Athletic Conference. Arguably, it's the best conference in Division III. It is excellent academic schools. So we can support certain applications, but we need to be able to see academics and transcripts and all that. However, we can, start to work through your junior year. So example, the 05s, we're now really focused on that group. Traditionally, you would be making a decision maybe in the spring, but usually it's as your junior year comes to an end and you're going to those final camps before your senior year, so somewhere June, July, or August. And most of our recruits come early decision. It's not to say we can't go to early decision 2 or regular decision, but most of them come early decision. A few things I want you to think about though, as far as the recruiting piece. I would recommend you get a journal, like get a notebook from school or whatever, and have it be your college journal. Everywhere you go, bring it. When you're in something like this, make notes in it. Every college and campus you go to, write the school down, talk about what the tour was like. That is going to be your college Bible. And it's a great way to kind of also put your questions in and to think about what you want to ask a coach, because there's nothing more awkward than getting in there and your parents are there with you and everyone's crammed into this little room and I say, well, do you have any questions? No, and then mom and dad talk for you and that becomes awkward. And it just becomes this whole, and then you get nervous and then there becomes an awkward exchange with mom and dad, you do eye glances and then someone's phone rings and it just becomes, so that journal really is really important because you're going to get a list of schools and I don't want to go too far on the tangent, but the ratio is going to be this. If you have 10 or 20, just say it's 10, you're going to walk on campus and you're going to throw off 5 of those schools. And you're going to walk on campus and 1 or 2 are going to let you up. It's going to be right in your gut. You're like, yeah, this is it. And I can't tell you what that's going to be, but it's gonna happen to each and every one of you. And the people where your decision will be made will either be at the dining room table with your parents, or parent or family members, or in the car to or from that campus. So bring a journal, start writing in it, be nice to your parents, and it'll work out for you.
Wonderful, thank you. Great information. So we touched on it a little bit, but if we want to, these girls want to grab your attention via email. So obviously that's the best way to communicate with you guys, so you guys can keep track of them as well. What would be some of the key characteristics other than grad views and things like that? But what are some other key attributes that you want to see inside an email? Let's start with introductory emails and then maybe some follow-up emails after maybe they attend a ID clinic or you saw them play at a national event. So Nancy, if we can start with you, that would be great.
Sure. Well, certainly academics, what your profile is, current profile. Don't be afraid to share it. It doesn't make it any better if you wait to share it when and you've got farther in the recruiting process. It actually wastes your time. So usually it's, I think we're all sitting up here at very good academic schools, and typically, gals that are playing club soccer are usually academically in a pretty good place to look at most of the colleges. But it's important that you share that information, and also what you might be interested in studying is really helpful in that introductory email. And coaches' references, I mentioned earlier the high school coaches, but if you can include high school coach and a club coach reference, and if you have a trainer, those are always great to have in an introductory email for us to refer back to. Let's see. I'd say that probably, and then as you keep up the communication, go on to clinics. So clinics, let's talk about this. I'll touch on two things, and I'm sure Alex will add to this. Videos or recruiting services. In my opinion, I don't think they're necessary, but everyone does it their own way, but that's not necessarily the answer. In fact, sometimes if it's a recruiting service that sends the email, I don't pay as much attention to it as if it's a personal email. I don't think videos have to be professionally done. These highlight videos of 3 or 4 minutes, as long as you're identifiable and the camera isn't shaking a super amount, and you're identifiable, and now it's so easy with iMovie and all that. You put a circle around yourself, and just so that we know who we're looking at, and it's 3 or 4 minutes of your best moments. Don't put in there things that, you don't have to give a full compliment of like all parts of your play. You want the best parts of your play. That's what you want to put in that video. And that could be included either in the introductory one or at some later date. It's useful. And the other thing, so video and recruiting services, and just when you're sending emails, I think this is obvious, but just try to make sure everything is, the name of the school is correct, and the name of the college is correct, things like that. And listen, we don't throw them in the trash if it's not that way. My assistant does, but I don't do that.
Awesome. Alex, you want to follow up on
I think doing your research on the school first, to Norm's earlier point about visiting campuses, but also on the academic side, when you email school, I love your engineering program. Well, they don't have one. So I think, making sure that your interest is genuine on both sides, because I think most coaches will agree that you're picking the school for that. That's your home, that's your academic journey, and the soccer is a tremendous, amazing bonus that adds to that. So I think making sure that it has your academic pursuits first is going to be massive, and do a little bit of research. I think we've all had emails where it's maybe the wrong mascot, or, oh, great season, you're like, was it? I think hopefully always, right? But I think those little bit of intricacies where it's you took the time that you're expecting us to take on you, that you've taken that for us a little bit in terms of, knowing some of those little ins and outs about, like I said, the coach that you're emailing, or the program that you're trying to get into. I think that's a valid point, and it shows that care, that attention, that again, we take for anybody that comes into our families. Again, most coaches, I think, would say that. And I think just to Nancy's point about the recruiting services and the film, take some film. I think we've all received probably some film that's maybe on the vertical, and we're trying to watch it, and we're kind of like, all right, looking at it differently, but definitely show the highlights, but I think a little, a couple seconds before, a couple seconds after, you receive the ball, this great build-up play, you turn, take a brilliant shot, and then goes the next thing. I'm just gonna assume it missed, but that's okay. It was a nice strike, the intent was there, but I think rather than cutting it short, we all make mistakes, nobody's perfect, we still see the highlight and we can, gather what the body of work was to have that play happen. I think too often I'm left wondering maybe what the end result is, and short and medium pass is brilliant. That long pass, did it connect? And if it didn't, okay, but you had that intent, and I think for us coaches, we want to see that IQ and that decision-making process, whether the technical execution was there or not, because that's those principles.
Awesome.
Norm, could you touch on some of that as well?
I think this is the easiest way to stay focused with your email. In your signature, which you can pretty much go into and create, put in your high school and your high school number, your club and your club number, and your graduation year and maybe your email address or cell phone. So literally in your body of your signature, so in every email you send, that's in there. Okay? One of the things that's hard for us is, one, you're trying to give us all this information and we're trying to find it, okay? And everyone's different. So some people it's really cut and dry, and others it's in paragraph 1, 2, or 3. And we just need this. So my suggestion is put all that relevant information in your signature. So when you sign off, it's your name, boom, and then that follows when we're moving. I think that will help everyone get pretty much to the point. You do not need to tell your life story. I care, but we don't need to have it in that first initial email. And it just needs to be something, quick, in my opinion, quick and to the point. And your video can be 2 or 3 minutes. Everyone's different. All coaches are different at this. But my feeling is, quick introduction. I love the personal touch. So a couple things. One, and you are going to be a student athlete. I am a professor coach. So I actually teach classes. I teach rock climbing. I teach outdoor, or I teach saltwater fishing and freshwater fishing. It's wonderful, it's great. But sometimes I'm literally, getting to emails is really, really hard. So just give me a quick hit and I'll do my best to get back to you. But don't take it personally if we don't get back to you right away, because we're doing a lot of different things. Our lives as coaches are all encompassing. So send us a quick email, and then that starts the process. And then we can find more out later as we go down. And my other last little piece is this. And I have 2 daughters, both are college age. One plays soccer at Union, she'll graduate soon. The other one runs track at Hamilton. Yeah, I know you're wondering. The oldest did look at Connecticut College, and she didn't like the coach. But she came down one day and she's like, Dad, and it's like in her junior year and sophomore, she's like, I sent a coach an email. And it dawned on me right then, I'm like, wow, these kids gotta be so scared, so nervous about this. And I stepped back from that and I realized, wow, make mistakes, spell my name wrong, I get it. But just be you. Be you, send the email, think about it a little bit, and if the coach doesn't get back to you, then that coach is in person, then don't worry about it. And if you send it 3 times and they'll get back to you, then that's what it is. But you're gonna find your place. Be yourself, send the email. If you spell something wrong, you spell it wrong. Okay, if you get my name wrong, I get it. Don't do it twice. Okay? And you'll be fine. We'll figure this out. Thank you.
Wonderful. Awesome. So a follow-up to that as well is, how many times, or how often do you want players reaching out to you? Obviously you don't want it every day, you don't want it every week. So obviously other, some showcases, or I attend your ID event. So can you guys just briefly touch upon when you want to frequently hear from these, PSAs? Alex, we'll start with you, if that's all right.
Sure. I think certainly around showcases, which we've touched upon, not the day of or the day before. Chances are we're on the road, we're traveling, spreadsheet, schedule's set. I think after the introductory email, a lot of times it's, hey, this is where my high school season's at, or high school's over, club's about to get going. It's like little milestone points as such. I was just named captain, those kind of things. Probably not the result of every game, I mean, in honesty, I think everybody's inbox is, the second you get it down to a manageable number, it's right back up there within a couple days, especially this time of year as our seasons have, reached a winding down point and the showcases are kicking off. But I think that, some follow-up after a showcase, it depends. I think sometimes it's, hey coach, I'd love to hear your feedback, and for some coaches it's, I didn't get to see you play, looking for the next opportunity. So I think just recognizing that, if you're sending 10 emails, then multiply that by, 100 kids each sending 10 emails, and then that's what some coaches are getting. So understanding that just because you're not getting a response back straight away doesn't mean you're lower on the priority list. It's just managing, our time. I know that's something that, depending on the staff size, right, you could always, maybe have one person versus 3 or 4 responding to emails, but I think the frequency, kind of as milestones occur throughout and seasons change from a high school focus to a club focus, that's a good time to send them. And then obviously as you get to maybe a more personal point in the recruiting process, it may end up being a phone call versus an email, but that's to each individual staff.
Yeah, awesome. Norm?
Great stuff, Alex. I agree with everything there, and I'll just add, sometimes as coaches, we either don't sign up to a tournament because I don't know if I can get there in time or my schedule's crazy. But if you look at that tournament list and you don't see the coach or the school that you're interested in, I think that's an opportunity to also be like, hey, just so you know, I'm playing this tournament on the weekend. And I think that sometimes that little communication is really important. So, and it doesn't have to be 13 paragraphs. It just be a quick little note. Hey, just so you know, I'm playing here this weekend. Hope to see you. That just shows you're interested. It shows his commitment. It shows you're engaged. And I think it's a great way to kind of keep the, I'm not sure what you said, but the timeline going. Okay, it's not weekly, but there's things happening in important dates. Let us know.
Nancy?
Yeah, I'll just add one thing about post-event, whether it's an ID clinic or a tournament, emails that you send. And Alex mentioned this about asking for feedback. So it's one of two things. If you send that email and you don't hear anything, it's because there's an overload of trying to get back to everybody. That could certainly be the case, so you just keep after it, right? You don't hear anything in a week, nothing wrong with sending another one. Hey, just wondered if you got to see me play. Without, you don't have to get back to me right away. You don't have to kind of add that to it, but that would be fun. And so, but if it happens that you're not getting responses, that's also could be information. So it could be one or two things. It could be the coach is overloaded and just hasn't been able to get back to everybody, or it could be that they're not ready to tell you that maybe they're not interested. I think most coaches try to be upfront and honest and transparent, but a lot of times they haven't seen enough, and so you'll get an email, hey, just need to see you some more. That also can have double meaning. That could mean they really need to see you more, or that could mean that they aren't yet ready to say, we have other players ahead. So what do you do? I mean, this is really, what do you do? So I think one of the things you do is you play on a club team and you ask your club coaches for an assist in communicating sometimes. That helps. Because maybe the club coach will get some information that you're trying to get as to whether you should keep that school on the list if there's really an interest. And then what does the communication or lack thereof mean? Because it may be just a misstep or a lost email, or it may be that there's some information behind it. And you know what? You all deserve to kind of know where things stand. And the answer may be, don't really know where, coach may say, I just don't know yet where you stand. And that may be honest, but you want to get, I think it's really important that you get the most honest information you can in the recruiting process. And I think as professionals, we deserve to give you the most honest information.
If Nancy's not responding to your email, just send it to me.
That's too cool. For a lot of these kids in the room, they reached out to me during the course of the year. They said, this coach isn't getting back to me, this coach isn't getting back to me. And what they don't seem to understand sometimes is that you guys had a very, very busy fall season, and that's your priority. So when these coaches are on the field in the fall, their sole focus is on their team and the players that are there. So we understand, obviously we do, and we've been through the process, that the fall season is strictly for them, focusing on the teams and the players that they have under them now. And then once November and December starts to come and showcases start to come up and events start to come up, that's when you're going to start hearing a little bit more from these guys. So we talked about what you guys like in emails and what you guys like in introductory texts, emails, calls, whatever. What are some of the biggest pet peeves or mistakes that you would see other than spelling Norm's name wrong? Norm, we'll start with you.
I think that you gotta don't mass email. I think that's the biggest thing. I think that most of you probably heard this because you play for the Scorpions. So, but that is, we have egos, and I think that that's when my ego pops up. Ooh, I just got BBC, it's like, or a blind copy. I don't like that. So don't mass email. I think that's the biggest thing. Make each email, personal to the coach. And again, that's where I know mistakes are going to happen. You're cutting and pasting and all that kind of stuff. Just do your best to proofread, but I'm a big boy. Mistakes are going to happen. If they don't happen, I don't have a job. So the idea, don't mass email, that'd be the one thing. But I also feel like just on the other side of it, be persistent, because the email chain it does get carried up. Hang in there. Don't be discouraged by that. And go from there. And then the other thing I would say is sometimes you get an email from us. Every email you get from another coach, just like you want feedback from us, that coach is looking to get feedback from you. And we can understand that maybe we're not the fit or not, but don't put your nose up at any school. You never know what opportunities could come from any place, okay? So just like you want us to be respectful, if we reach out to you and you're not interested, that's fine, but just let us know as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add on the visits, not so much on the email, just, I think Norm mentioned it, just being, you're in charge of the visit, not your parent, and be prepared, it's really important. Be present, be yourself, be authentic, show your personality, for sure. And not only not rolling your eyes when your parents are talking, if they ask a question, and your parents should be mute in those meetings or exchanges, for sure. We want parents to ask questions. But any coach is going to want to hear when a question is asked to the prospect, that the prospect answers the question, not the parent for them. And the other people not to diss during a visit, I think is a pet peeve of many coaches, is don't diss your high school coach or your club coach, because it's a small world, and we probably know them. And just have an idea as you go along in the process of what are you looking for, what's important to you, because the questions that you start to ask really gives us some information of what is really a priority for you. So not that your first visit you're going to know what you want yet, because that is part of the process, and you should go through the process. You should not make a decision on the first school you visit that that's the place for you. I will put that line out there as, you can quote me on that one. That can be Nancy Feldman right on the bottom of that one. The process is, you wouldn't buy a car that way, you don't buy a house that way, you shouldn't be selecting a college that way. You definitely want to go through the process of the exploration. And as you do that, then you start to really think about what's important to you, and that's what should shape your questions. The other thing, last thing I'll say is, if you can get to a practice, not only a game, but if you can get to a practice and watch a bit of a practice, they can give you some really good information about how the team functions, and how the coaches work, and how the players train, which is, I think, a really good indicator of what kind of culture the team has.
Alex, any pet peeves?
No, I agree with everything that's been said. I think, just to add to Nancy's point, when you visit these schools, it is about finding what you like, but it's also about discovering like your non-negotiables. Similar to back at house, right? Well, I need central air, right? Because I'm a sweaty person, not a personal, just a generalization, right? But I think in that regard, it is about, oh, you know what, I actually don't like being in the city, or I don't like being in a rural campus. I thought I would. So the more you see, the more you are able to then narrow down and really realize what you want as your college destination. So I think it's so valuable, and you're all in an area that's so saturated with a ton of wonderful, wonderful academic institutions with, you know, equally wonderful soccer programs. So get out there and do the legwork. And be transparent, you know, to Norm's point again, you know, if you're not interested and a school is interested in you, just express that, it's okay. We've all had, you know, just as many, probably more rejections than we have, you know, acceptances to our program. So I think in that regard, you want that transparency from us, so, you know, return it.
Wonderful. What would a typical day in the life of a student athlete look at within your respective programs, but also within your respective divisions? Because obviously Division 1 is different from Division 2, 3. So Nancy, if we could start with you, and then go to Alex and then to Norm, would be great.
Sure. With Division I, they're pretty much all the same. The Ivies are a little bit different, but preseason starts 16 days before your first competition, so that's usually around the 2nd, 3rd of August, depending on the calendar. And then during that preseason period before school starts, you're really feeling like a professional soccer player. It's fantastic. And you don't have to worry about any school. And you do get, I think it's great being a fall athlete at a college, because you do get to get to campus early and to get really comfortable and to get a good group of friends, your team, and know where you're going and how to get around campus. I think it's a real advantage. And then when classes begin, you're in your schedule of whether you have a heavy day Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or every day is equal, 3 or 4 classes, and the time in between is used for not only eating, but catching some studying, and then you'll have your training. And some programs train in the morning, some train in the afternoon, some train in the evening, so that's a good question to ask when you're on a visit. And that's the traditional, what's called the traditional season that takes you through the conference tournament, should you make the conference tournament, or the NCAA tournament. So that, whatever that date is, and then there's a period of time of recovery. Most programs give a week or 2 of recovery where there's no activity, formal activity. Maybe there's some exit meetings. And then there's the non-traditional season starts, and for Division I, that's an 8-hour-a-week period, where the traditional season is 20 hours a week with 1 required day off. The non-traditional is max of 8 hours, required 2 days off, and no more than 4 hours with the soccer ball. Seems crazy, but those are the rules. That takes you pretty much, when you come back from winter break, for most programs, it'll take you until about the end of February. And then the traditional season starts again with regard to 20 hours a week, where you can train up to 20 hours a week and then play some up to 5 games in the spring. So that's pretty typical of the Division I. So it is once in a while I'll get the question, coaches will get the question at Division I, can you play 2 sports? It would be nearly impossible. And so if you want to be a 2-sport athlete, which is a great thing to be, then there's plenty of other options at Division 2 and 3 that I don't even know if Division 2 it's done, but certainly in Division 3. It used to be done when I was a Division 3 coach still. Yeah. But in Division I, that would be pretty difficult because of the full year-round demand of the training program being a Division I soccer player.
Thank you. Alex?
So our calendar is pretty similar to Division I. We do not start as early. We're usually reporting in the middle of August, and then leading up to our opening weekend, but 20 hours a week, 1 day off, and that'll again carry us September, October into the conference tournament, any postseason activity. The last date, whether that's postseason or regular season, then we have a 2-week break before we can get back into accountable activities. That could be weight training, conditioning, any soccer practice ahead of finals. And then the winter break, it's the same thing, come back from the winter break and start up with the same 8 hours for specific soccer instruction until the middle of the spring, end of February, March. And our difference in the spring is while Division I is 20 hours, Division II has 15 hours, so that still allows for nearly practicing every day and the same amount of play dates, 5 play dates. And then 2 days off still, obviously, through the spring season.
Awesome. Norm?
We're nothing like that. So Division III is restrictive. The NESCAC is even more restrictive. No offense to anybody, I hope any presidents aren't here, but I call it smart schools with dumb athletic rules. That is changing now, and so it's very similar to your high school season. In Division III, we do all the same stuff Division I and II does, just not as much. But our season at Connecticut College or in the NESCAC is going to start probably August 21st or 2nd, when most of Division IIIs is probably about 5 or 6 days before that. So let's just say August 15th for most Division III schools. So we are about 4 or 5 days behind, and then we're starting we start just after Labor Day weekend. Most Division IIIs start on Labor Day weekend. Luckily for us, we can be pretty successful, and so our season gets extended oftentimes into late November. We were selected in the national tournament this year. Great experience. So that takes you almost into Thanksgiving, depending on how you're doing. So that's where we hopefully can make the timeline. And when it gets into the spring, actually I'll backtrack a little bit. Your typical day is the same. You have 1 day off a week. One thing I think I want you to think about, and when you think about this being overwhelming, you're used to high school, and you go from 6:30, you wake up probably, you put on that 50-pound backpack, you walk around, and you're in school till about 2 o'clock, 2:30. In college, you might not have class on a Wednesday. You might only have 2 classes on Monday and Friday, and 2 classes on Tuesday, Thursday. So it's very manageable during your course of your day. You need to be able to take advantage of your work day, we call it. At 8 to 4. We typically practice at 4 to 6 or 6 to 8. But that daily work is when you can get your work done and have some free time. But I think you need to understand that that's where it's much different. College, you don't have as many classes and you have a lot more time to do your work, but you have to do your work. Typically, any kid coming from club, any young adult coming from club, we know is going to be organized. You just have to be. So we're not really worried about it, but it's just that can ease your stress a little bit. Season just ended. We were very fortunate. Our strength coach is Annalise Rios, Connecticut College. She's also the WNBA Connecticut Sun strength coach, and she played for the Bolivian national team. She knows her footing. She scored the country's first goal. It was against Brazil at Florida on the field, so that's the woman who's going to be crushing you in the weight room. It's hard to talk back to her. And our team just started a winter phase, so even though we're Division III athletes, our season is over. We are now in a weight room with a phase that gets us through the winter. When we get back, we'll be with her again, and then the NESCAC has approved a non-traditional season for our spring or fall sports. Division III, a non-traditional season is 5 weeks, 15 practices, 1 scrimmage. I'm not sure the restrictions we're going to have in the NESCAC, but I'm thrilled to be able to coach with my team in the spring. We'll be able to do that. To what extent, I don't know yet, but that is a new change. I'm very excited about it. 2 things with COVID I forgot to mention. With masks, it's nice because you can hide your yawn, but if you do yawn, make sure you hide it. Elbow, palm, okay, don't do that in a meeting with a coach. Okay, and a good handshake will go a long way.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Norm.
Thank you, guys. I have one last question for them before we turn it over to the audience. So audience, either you can speak loud or I can come meet you with a microphone. But these players in front of them now, they have a little scorpion cheat sheet of what they should be doing their freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior years. It obviously goes a lot more in detail than that, but last question for me is, could you guys just run through maybe what it would look like in your world for a freshman, PSA, sophomore, junior, senior, whether it be obviously talking to them or hearing from them, email, text, ID clinic, anything that you guys can give us from freshman year to senior year, in a short, brief way, that'd be great. So Norm, we can start with you.
Let me get that question right. So, what to expect from the young women?
Correct.
Okay. I think that, first of all, I think that you needed, the work, it's such a big web. How do you start this? And I simply ask you to do this. When you walk into school tomorrow, what are you excited about? What academic thing are you excited about? And if you, whatever you choose, that's how you can read that search engine. Because you just never know. But I followed one thing early in my life: do what you love, the money will follow. And so pick a place, pick a school, pick an education that you're passionate about, and if you stay passionate about your footy, the world's your oyster. Okay? But freshman, sophomore, start, reach out. Okay, I think the big camps are important. A lot of times I get invited to the big camps, so Nancy will invite me to a camp or something like that, or I'll go up to Dartmouth, or I'll go down to Columbia. Those are big and important. There are a lot of other camps that are out there these days. Sometimes I don't go to those because then you don't come to mine. The idea though is I think it's okay as a freshman or sophomore to kind of do that because it kind of gets your name out there. And you'll find out just by doing that, the Division I's reach out to you and follow up. Do they pull you aside and say they want to talk to you? The Division II's do that. Where's your interest? You'll probably find quickly from that where your talent lies and where you're going to be most successful. So example, if you keep looking at BU and they don't answer back and say that I don't know if it's going to be the right fit, it's probably not going to be the right fit. And then Division II, then you start to find where your niche is going to be. But at the same time, it's also tricky because Division I doesn't stop and start, and then Division II stop and start, and then Division III stop and start. There are a lot of successful programs at all different levels that you can find a niche for. So big camp to start, then I think you need to get yourself onto campus for an IB clinic. And that typically would be probably your junior year. Think about it this way. It's a school you like, and it's a school the other people there like. And then it's apples to apples. So when you go to that IB clinic and you're the best forward there, then that's a pretty good sign. If you go there and you're the worst forward, then maybe go somewhere else. So that is a great way to do it, and the coaches are doing the same thing. Okay, so you're on my campus, you're at my ID clinic, now there's a real interest. So that ID clinic, and that's recruiting these days in my opinion, is the ID clinic. But you gotta narrow that down.
Awesome. Nancy?
Yeah, I'm sure the timeline that coaches for the Scorpions have given you is right on the money. I think I would just add a couple of things to think about. From freshman year to senior year is get your schoolwork done. Just to be the best student you can be. It will matter, and it puts you in the best. You will have the most doors open possible, and all you can do is your best. But do your best. The second is if you want to be a collegiate soccer player, then you need to train, and you need to work at it, and you need to develop your craft and gain competency. So if you really want to, I'd say it's less about putting the word out there that you want to play college soccer, and it's doing the work, because if you do the work and you're in Excel, you'll be found. Even if you don't send an email, you'll be found. But stay healthy and try to control as best you can and be smart about your own recovery. Just got off the phone with a gal today that told me she's going to be in Florida for 2 days for a tournament and then fly back and play in a league game on Sunday. And my first reaction was, whoa, whoa, whoa. Now, if that's a one-time thing, you're trying to help out this team or help out that team, or you don't want to tell your coach, I can't play, but figure out how you're going to build your schedule over the course of your year so that you have recovery and over the course of the year it's built in, and also that you put in rest each week, and so that you stay mentally and physically fresh and healthy. I'm sure that you hear this all the time, but think twice before you post, think twice before you make a social decision, hang out with good people. Christine said it, I think it's great advice, is people that support your dreams and goals. Those are your friends. Those are your true friends. And be active in the process. And I think you have a sheet in front of you, and just be active in the process. Don't sit back and let it happen to you. You take charge of it, and you'll find your place. There's a place for everybody.
Thank you. Alex?
No, I love all those points. I think owning the process and having a Division I, II, and III coach in front of you now, I think a lot of times it can be, oh, I don't want to look at a Division I, or I don't want to look at Division III, or I don't want to look at Division II. There's obviously the behind-the-scenes logistics, the regulations, the rules, but there are Division I programs that get smoked by Division IIIs, and you need to go out and pick for the identity of the program and the school, not just, well, I only want to play at this division, or I only want to play in this conference, because maybe that's not the fit for you, and you haven't dug down and dug deep. Obviously, academics massive. Make sure you're doing the best that you can and focus on that. And then the advice I always give is just self-awareness for who you are as a student, who you are as an athlete, but underlying most is who you are, period. And I love when Christine was talking about being different, being confident in who you are, because nobody else can be you. You get to wake up every day and be like, oh, I'm Alex Wilson, cool, all right. And I think that is a step to developing that confidence, is really having that self-awareness of who you are and what grounds you, and what, again, keeps that fire burning in terms of the training and the mental health and the academic pursuits, because that's what's going to carry you into a program and leave your legacy on that program, just the way, you're leaving it with your club, you're leaving it with your high school. That comes from, each individual. That's what our programs are built on, is those individuals in those classes. So I think having true to those identities will certainly help you out from, that freshman year and as you develop and mature, because you're not done when you get to college and like, oh, I'm here, I'm matured. I mean, that would be wonderful. But, I think a lot of that growth happens through those years when you're now discovering who you are by yourself, in theory, right? Not under, your household roof, but under, a new roof in your college family. And I think having those stepping stones to guide you through that only helps.
Awesome.
Are there any questions from the audience that we would like to ask the panel? Wonderful. Do you want the microphone?
I'm curious, this question is about reach, and probably particularly for the graduating seniors this year. COVID has regionalized the ability to have those kind of contacts, to travel to schools, to develop those connections. And there's a great room of girls and a great room of talent here, but there's also an extra year at the collegiate level that's allowed to play. How do you speak to encouraging the girls graduating this year and maybe those that the following year that may be impacted by the number or the size of the roster? And what kind of communication can they hope for to get outside of this region if they're not on a national team? So a lot of you have been in the Midwest, exposure to Division II or III schools, in the Midwest, West Coast, South. How do you make those contacts, and where can you hope for support in that area?
Well, that's a really easy question to answer. Yes. So, I feel so bad for, not that this question isn't over, 'cause it'll get accomplished, but the 2022's really got caught in a vice. And like you mentioned, 2023's, it's gonna open up a little bit more for the 2023's for sure, but still, there are less slots for this 2-year period. So what do? I think if you're looking at I think communicating to any schools that you might have an interest in, are there opportunities? Are there opportunities on the roster? So just knowing that information from the start. So you have a shot for a spot on the roster. And then if it's out of the region, you're talking about geographically, this 2, 3, 4-minute video to spark an interest. If there's a spot on the roster that's available, can the 2, 3, 4-minute video spark interest? And then, it's getting late now. The applications are due Jan 1, right? That's sometimes Jan 15. Between now and then, I don't know if there'll be any clinics, but it may be that you might have to make some applications of schools that at least there's spots, and then get to a spring clinic before a deposit for admission has to happen, just to get in front of the coach. That's how I would navigate, particularly the 2022. The 2023, by comparison, you have a lot of time. There's still a lot of time, and I think a lot of schools are still sorting out who's coming back, for their 5th year, who might be transferring to get a graduate degree somewhere else. So I think the dust hasn't settled yet on 2022, and I actually think it's not going to be quite as difficult. But 2023 won't be quite as difficult. But for those that are sitting in the room that don't yet have a plan in place for 2022, just see if you can communicate. And it may be you got an answer that was no a couple of weeks ago, and that could actually change because after seasons are over, sometimes there's a change in rosters that coaches didn't expect. So another reach out around now, when everybody sort of collected themselves after the season, could end up being an opportunity there on a roster that wasn't there a few weeks back. I don't know if that answers it perfectly, but try to hit a couple things.
They call that melt. Melt at the end of the year. So you have your season, and then the players come in and they're sophomores, and they sat next to me the whole time. Now they realize, and it melts away, and there's a spot. That's a great question. It's a great question. So I think I get called lots of things. I'd like to think I'm fair and reasonable. I do get called lots of things, but I just thought when COVID happened, it's like, well, I have to adjust my recruiting, and campuses are also adjusting some of their timelines too. So be persistent. You are, if they're the 22s, the seniors, you got to get your applications in. I think that's the biggest thing. And the Common App makes that pretty easy. And then if you really are interested, then you got to show that interest, not just to the coaches, but also to the admissions. Get to a campus, sign up for a tour. They track all of that stuff. Okay, for the younger players, you go to a campus, sign up for admissions, get to a tour, do all that. They send you an email from admissions, respond back if you're really interested. My oldest daughter should have gotten into another NESCAP, I'm glad she didn't. But they tracked her, and they realized that she just came for a self-guided tour, and that was it. So she got denied. So if you're really interested, do that work. But the 2022s, get that Common App going and apply to places that you're truly interested in, and there'll be rooms. And so for me, I have time. And I certainly haven't shut the door yet on that class.
Alex, anything to add?
I don't really have anything.
We have a question
Yes,
over there.
something similar to that. In a perfect world, we have all of this figured out, but injuries come about in this grueling sport. And let's say we're very late in the process. Isn't there such thing as a walk-on? How do you treat walk-ons in each division? How do you look at injuries? If someone hasn't been able to present themselves to your school because of that, how do you go through that process? How do you look at somebody that just shows up at a tryout that you might not have considered, but we know, could have a future at Division I, II, or III?
Different schools will have different policies for walk-ons. I'll talk about Division I. So it's just asking the question is there a walk-on tryout, and how not legitimate, that's not the right word, how likely is it that someone that goes to a walk-on tryout could actually make the team? And in many cases, the walk-on tryout at Division I is not in the fall. So it means you come to the campus and you have a chance to try out in the spring of your freshman year. So that's a question, because everybody's going to do it differently. Some just give it lip service, and it's not really going to ever evolve into an opportunity. How do you get to the bottom of it? I guess you might ask how many walk-ons, straight walk-ons, have ever made the team. That might give you some information. And then is the walk-on tryout, do you have a published walk-on tryout? How do you look at injured players? I mean, if you've seen them, if coaches have seen them previously, then they may be able to give some information about the likelihood of making the team as just on a roster spot. If it had that prospect hasn't been seen at all, and I guess you have to decide as a prospect, how important is it to you to go to that school / go to that school and maybe not play soccer. It's unfortunate, but you can get some information about finding out about what their walk-on tryout policy is, and if anyone's ever made a team that way.
I would agree, similar in that regard, where if the school is the school no matter what, and I think a lot of people will say, especially sitting in this room, maybe, well, the school is the school, but I also want soccer, then that's that decision. But I would say, common practice among my peers that I've heard in Division II is that it's right, well, they're going to enroll, and then it wouldn't be a come to fall preseason, but more invite in the spring when you get those graduating seniors departing and some roster spots potentially opening up, and then also coaches having a clear idea of their recruiting class for the next year.
I'll start with injuries first. So, my center back All-American when I was out of Wittenberg was looking at Division Ones, and she did her knee in the spring of her, or winter or spring of her junior year. And I'm really good at catching people. So she fell into my lap, and she was a two-sport athlete for 4 years, center back All-American. I've never seen anyone more dominant in the air than Maggie Morello. And the only reason she played for me is because she got hurt. So injuries are part of the game, injuries are part of life. And you just got to keep, you know, medical technology today is excellent, so do the work, recover, there'll be chances to play. The other thing is the big Division Ones, those clubs at Division Twos and Division Three universities, literally the club team, are awesome experiences. Don't put your nose up at that. And they're hard teams to make. So there's still soccer to be played even if you don't think that you know can be a walk-on or make the team. And they're a lot of fun. And I've got several of my club players that are playing and having a great experience. The walk-ons are real. It depends. I certainly have had a couple in my time, but they have to be pretty special. So I mean, you know, you got to come in and you're kind of coming in from behind the 8 ball a little bit, and you got to have to kind of, you know, be humble and understand some people, you don't give you a uniform or whatever, and it's all, you know, no one knows your name and all that kind of stuff. But you just got to fight through it. If you're good enough, I don't think a coach is going to be, and you come in and show, like, I don't care if you're a walk-on, if you're going to be starting for me. You know, lucky me. You never know who walks through your door. And as far as the late process, back to the question the other day, my most impactful freshman, Claire Mulvihill, emailed me December 30th of last year. I remember the date. And I watched the video and I was like, oh, let's get your application in. And she did by January 1st, and she's a starting midfielder in a national tournament team. So that late process is real, the walk-ons are real, the injuries are real. That's life. And if life's always easy, it's boring. Okay, you need some adversity.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Anyone have a question? Bernard?
I just wanted to ask, each of you have talked about the significance of sending a really good video, but what are the video is only good if the coaches actually open up the email. So what are some things that kids can put in the subject line that'll pop and make you take that initial look? Just curious.
I think in the subject line, it's important for me to see your grad year, because honestly, that's kind of how I prioritize. If it's 2025, I know I'm not gonna immediately, A, be able to communicate, and B, you know, maybe I'm on 2023 still, or 24, so I think having that information straight away, because that lets me know, A, you know, where on my priority list, regardless of the skill set I'm about to see, does that prospective student athlete fall? And I think, you know, name, position, because it may be, oh, it's a goalkeeper, and, you know, being a unique position, it may be that you straight away now, well, it's 2024, well, we don't have plans for a goalkeeper. It doesn't mean they won't look at it. You know, I think that's diligent to each coach and opening their emails, you know, when time allows, obviously, to do so. But I think grad year, position, you know, obviously name and club are kind of some of the, you know, in high school are a few of the things that I look for just in a tagline. It doesn't have to be like, you know, Emily Smith, I scored 80 goals this year. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, that'd be, you know, and then you open it up and you're like, oh, you know, whatever that may be that, you know, changes your mindset. But I think some of those important aspects to let us know how to prioritize, whether we look at this straight away, if it's a 2022, maybe we look at it straight away, right? Because we know that time is ticking. But if it's a 2025, you know, maybe we put it to next week or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure the video is the most important thing. That's from, you guys are playing for the Scorpions, you're at national events and local events too. So I think the key is to be sure that you are letting coaches know the schools you're interested in, where can you be seen live. The video is supplementary. I think if you just send the introductory and follow it up, anytime you're going to have an event or be at an event that you might cross paths with a coach, just be sure you notify them. And I think that's how the evaluation or assessment is going to happen. and the video can be a supplementary piece for it.
I'll spin it a different way. One of my delays with emails is often, just like you on a response, I feel like you deserve my response. And a lot of times our email's connected to our databases, so just to pop it up on your phone, I can't sometimes put you in or see that you're in my database, so it takes a little time for me. I need to sit and get it done. And then if I see there's a video, I feel like you put the time to put the video in, I want to at least put something in there. So I'll try to watch it quickly and say, oh, like whether you receive it with your left foot, or great goal, or great song choice. I mean that was but that's why sometimes it takes a week, or it takes because I got to do that the right way. That's how my brain works. But each coach is different. But I do like just getting a little. But again, it just piques the interest. We ultimately want to see you live. We ultimately want to see you on our campus at an ID clinic, or work with you in a camp somewhere. And because that's then the personal. Then you hear my tone. I see the player's energy and tone, and I think then all of a sudden you realize, okay, this is the person who can play for us in our program. So the email gets us going. The video kind of piques the interest a little bit, but really it's back to the stuff I've been saying all along, and it's getting out in front of us or getting to our campuses and getting to know you.
Wonderful. Just a last closing remark from you guys before we close things up from you guys. So Norm, who could start with you, that'd be great.
Okay. No, but this is important. Parents, I'm kind of in my wheelhouse. Look, I got 2 daughters in college. I get it. It is. You are now on campus. Because of the phones. You're coming to college too. Daughters, you need to take ownership for this. You need to understand that your voice that you have and your ownership in the process is going to relax the neck hairs on your parents' neck. So they're going to be like, oh, okay. All right. Did you send an email? No. Okay. No one-word answers. Okay. How's the day? Good. No. Share. Okay. Take ownership in the recruiting process. Take ownership in the club process. Take ownership in your life at college. Okay? It will settle your parents down. Okay? And that will allow you to find your voice, live your life, and you will be empowered to do so by them. They just want the best for you. Parents, we know that you're only as happy as your saddest kid. It's just how it is. You're only as happy as your saddest kid. There are going to be tough days. There's gotta be those phone calls home, okay? I like to show my families that I've got a heart, I care, but yeah, I gotta make tough decisions. Let the coaches coach their teams. Let your daughters become the adults that you sent them to college to be, okay? But daughters, if you don't help your parents do that, shame on you. Parents, pump the brakes, breathe. Any setback in life is okay, because it's how, if you don't struggle, you don't grow. College is about growth, life is about growth. Find a college that fits the academics, find a college that fits how you feel, and find a program where you can play and be successful, and you will grow. Thank you.
I think that's a good summary from all of us. Seriously, success, Christine said, success is finding the right place for you, and that is what this is about. This is why we're here. We want to help you find the right place for you. So that's what will be successful.
I just say enjoy it. It's a finite time to be a student athlete, especially at the college level, which, as any of us that peek at the statistics will tell you, about 7% of all girls playing high school soccer in the country, only 7% go on and play at the next level. So enjoy it, because it's an identity that will be a marker of the rest of your life. 10, 15, 20, however many years out of college, you're always going to identify with that role and that experience. And I know for all of us, it's impacted what we do, and why we do what we do is for our student athletes. So I know that to all those things that Norman and Nancy said, enjoy it, find the right place, and crush it. You guys are gonna do great.
Thank you, Norm, Nancy, and Alex for joining us tonight. One last round of applause for that. We are going to let these coaches leave out this way. Players and parents, just hold still real quick. We have a few awards from last year that we never got to get out to you guys. Thank you. So give us 1 second. Thank you guys again.